Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about what it means to be adopted. So one of the first things that comes to mind would be a loss of culture. And what I mean by this is the moment that I was adopted, my Chinese culture was taken away from me. I was brought into this American family, so I have American culture now within me, and all my values, ideas, and perspectives are more or less westernized. Maintaining that Chineseness to me has always been a lifelong journey instead of just being born into a culture or society that already has this. I feel like my Chinese culture that I have was something that I had to take for myself. It wasn't just given on to me. I feel like I'm learning about the Chinese culture as a foreigner almost, and it's like a hand-me-down culture from other people. It's kind of strange in the way because I'm not a part of this Chinese culture, but at the same time it is the culture that I was born into. Maybe not the culture that I grew up in, but I was born into this culture and I look like I belong in the culture. So it's technically my culture, but at the same time it's not something I'm familiar with, so it's not mine. So maintaining my original culture, if you will, is something that is a lifelong struggle. For a lot of Asian adoptees, they will always have this kind of barrier between their westernized culture and their Asian culture. And even though I'm learning to embrace my Chinese culture and I'm, majoring in Chinese, I still feel like it's not authentic enough. I don't know a lot about the traditions or the customs or the little tidbits that only real Asians would know, if you will. So I always feel like I'm a fraud in that sense, and I'm not a real Asian. Maybe I look like it, but I'm very westernized, and it's not just like a Western, like an Asian American type Western. It's more specific to adoptees because there is always going to be that disconnect between my original culture because I've been without it for so long. So I always feel like I'm getting this secondhand, and I'm not a true Asian American, or I'm not a true Asian, but more so as a westernized Asian American adoptee. Very specific in that way, because I always feel like I'm a fraud Asian. So this brings me to my next point, never fitting in. So being an Asian American adoptee, I can never really fit in with the Asian American group, but I'm also not accepted fully into the, westernized American group. I relate to both groups on different levels. I have friends from each group, obviously, and I don't know, it's just like I can never fit in with either. We still get along, we still have fun, but it's not the same, and I always feel like the odd one out. Too westernized for the Asian American group and too Asian for the Asian American group. I guess that's just how it will always be. Personally, I actually have a lot of Asian friends, Asian American more specifically, and I don't know, that's just how it just happened. Another thing that comes to mind when I think about what it means to be adopted is not knowing your family history. And this is something that hits close to home because that's something really big. Like, people always say oh, maybe this diabetes runs in the family, so I have to be cautious about my sugar intake or whatever, something like that. And that's something I will never know. Especially when I go to the doctors and they're like, oh, do you know if this runs in your family? And then I'll have to say oh, I'm not sure because I'm adopted. In that case, biological family information is what they're looking for and what they need. So that's the clear fine line when it clearly separates my adopted family or my real family from my biological family, who I don't really consider my real family. I mean, I know you can do DNA tests and they'll tell you you are prone to this or blah blah blah, and they can tell you your family history. That takes a lot of money. I actually bought the 23andMe DNA test. I'm still waiting for the results. It's been almost a month now, the results. I'll make a video on that, so stay tuned. But I actually didn't buy the family history part because you can just buy your what your ethnic breakdown is, and that's the one I bought, which was $100, and then the second one was your family history, but that was an extra $100, and I didn't want to splurge too much, so I just bought my genetic makeup for this time. That's just something like very inaccessible for me, knowing my family history, and while it's a small thing, it can also be a big thing, and it does bother me because it makes me wonder, like, I don't know where I came from, or who my biological family is. There will always be a gap between that. You know, I mean, I know I'm from China, I even know the province and city I'm from, but at the same time, that's all I really know. I don't know anything else about my biological family, or even just for myself, like, where did I come from? Where did my life begin? Wow, my life is so different. My life could have been so different at the same time. My life just panned out like that. It's crazy to think. I'm so westernized now that I couldn't even think like what my life would be like, or have any idea of what my life would be like if I still lived in China. But yeah, I do sometimes think like what my life would be like if my parents didn't give me up, my biological parents I mean. China had the one-child policy. Traditional Chinese culture favored males over females, and you know, if people couldn't pay those fines for an extra child, they just gave away girls. I'm not saying this to bash out on like traditional Chinese culture or anything. This is just, you know, a fact. I have to say though, the biggest thing for having so many adoptees from China would be the one-child policy. All these questions like who am I, where did I come from, what would my life be like if I wasn't adopted, these are all questions that I think about, but at the same time I don't let that overcome my life, because at the same time there's nothing I can do about that now, and I'm here, so I have to focus on my life now and here. Anyways, that's just a little insight on what it means to be adopted. I hope this was interesting and relatable, and I'm sorry if it was a bit confusing, but yeah. So I'll see you guys in my next video.